What the dice say is what the dice say, and if you die, oh well, oops, sorry. Hello, my love. It is Tuesday. It is tea time, and today I'm going to talk about running D&D for the first time. So I have been playing D&D for a while now, back before 3rd edition. I started pretty young, and I've always loved fantasy stories and role-playing. And although my role-playing skewed more toward modern games with the World of Darkness storytelling system, I never lost the love of fantasy. My problem with D&D, however, is that the mechanics are really obtuse. It's with the World of Darkness storyteller system, you take one stat and you take your ability, you add those numbers together, that's your dice, you roll it, your target number is whatever the storyteller tells you it is. With D&D, it's always felt more complex. There are 6 different types of dice that you use, rather than just one set of 10-sided die. And although you're mainly rolling your d20 for your can I do this rolls, there are additions that go with each of those things, and that's math. And if we have not met yet, hi, I'm Hannah, and some days I can be both pretty and smart. You know, I can do the glow and have the brain meat to do the math. But those days are getting rarer and rarer, and most of the time now, I only have room to be one of those things. And honey, I don't have a choice. I'm always pretty. So keeping track of the math has always been the thing that has kept me from storytelling or dungeon mastering D&D. Thankfully, we have technology now, and with D&D Beyond, even though it is not the most robust of storytelling tools, it does the math and the die rolling for you, and it makes it really, really easy to dip a toe into dungeon mastering and telling stories. If you are like me and cannot do the math and the rules are very obtuse, you need somebody to make all the additions and subtractions for you, and you have to keep track of very minimal math. That is the thing that kept me from running D&D for decades, literal decades, because the figuring out of what is a good challenge for the party, like I can run a mystery in my sleep as long as there doesn't need to be any fighting. I can handle this is your DC on an investigation roll, although I personally would like my players to narrate their investigation rather than just relying on a roll. I will make the DC harder for you if you do not give me anything to work with in your action narration. Just putting that out there. The encounter builder will allow you to create, I think, 6 different encounters, which is more than enough for a single session. It should be, unless you are just running for combat monsters. In which case you should have them pay for your subscription to D&D Beyond so that you can get more encounters. I will say there is a little bit of expenditure with this, because unless you have somebody who already owns the books on D&D Beyond, who is part of a campaign, who is sharing those with you, you will probably want to access the core book and the monster manual on D&D Beyond. So purchasing them online instead of as a physical book will allow you the access to all of the creatures and all of that for your encounter builder. If you want to be playing, you need the player's handbook so that you have access to the races and whatnot. There's a limited amount of things that you can be without owning any of the books on D&D Beyond, but you know, your hobbies are going to cost money. Be prepared to pay some amount for them, okay? And if you are storytelling for the same group of people over and over and over again, they can buy you books. They can absolutely buy you books, because what you're doing is putting effort in. This is work. It's not all fun and games when you're in charge of things. So do not feel bad when your players offer to buy you books, or do not feel bad about asking your players to buy you books, especially if it is a long-running group. Or if you know somebody who has all the books, just pop into a campaign with them and ask them to share it with you, and then you have access. Ta-da! Easy peasy pudding pie. If you are storytelling one-shots or you're not running super long games, you can make 6 different encounters last 4 to 6 hours. Easy. Easy, especially if you are playing with a group that is heavy on talking, heavy on searching, heavy on doing things that are not exactly fighting. Because although the backbone of D&D is and always has been combat, you will find that a lot of players don't particularly like combat. I am one of them. I am bored to tears by combat. I would rather talk to the monster. I would rather find out what the monster's motivations are. I would rather convince them not to do bad things. I would rather come to a compromise. That is the kind of player that I am. I'm the kind of player that if there's an animalistic monster, oh, look, I've got a new pet. That is me. Okay, we're gonna go talk to people. We're gonna make negotiations. We're gonna try our best to avoid fighting and violence, because once we get into the roll for initiative phase, there are a lot of people who like that kind of gameplay. Don't get me wrong, that's a valid way to play, and I'm not trying to shame anybody who likes combat. I roll badly. I don't care if my target number is high, I'm going to roll low. If my target number is low, I'm going to roll high. If you sat me and Will Wheaton down, Will Wheaton would beat me every time. That's how bad I roll. And people are like, oh, Hannah, you can't, it's in your head. They're like, oh, Hannah, use the digital dice. The digital dice do the same thing. When I play Warhammer 40k, you know, there's an ability that lets you reroll ones if you're within a certain number of inches of your, like, leader model. I don't roll ones, I roll twos. You can't reroll the twos. I was once playing Shadowrun and my character died because of a bad roll. And my storyteller at the time was like, no, this cannot be happening. You can't roll that badly. So I picked up all of the dice that were on the table, and it was 36 d6, and I rolled them, and there was not a single 6, but there were 21 ones. That is my dice luck. So I try and avoid everything having to do with dice. Now, don't get me wrong, there are the occasions that I need to get a good roll, like when the whole party is about to die and I am trying to do an act of faith. That is the time that I roll the nat 20, okay? There are rare, shining moments where the luck is with me, and when the luck is with me, it's with me. But those moments are few and far between. For a really long time, I did not play damage dealing characters because I couldn't deal damage with the dice. I played clerics, I played healers, I played things that could do other things without having to roll too much. Okay, that is the key, without having to roll too much. I developed a way of role-playing through words and narrative action that my DMs kind of felt bad for making me roll for something. If I am so specific in my investigation of an area and tell them exactly where I'm looking, you can't really take that away from your player if they're like, I'm going to look through the desk, I'm going to pull the drawers out, I'm going to turn them over, I'm going to look for false bottoms. If they're very thorough with their narrative action, you can't really say, okay, roll an investigation, because they're actually role-playing the investigation. So if you have players like that, I highly encourage you to lean into that. Don't make them roll for everything. Just let them role-play. Let them have fun. Figure out what your players want. You should have a session 0, number 1, and you should ask every person around the table, like, what is fun for you? What would make this game fun for you? And some people are going to be like, I want to fight challenging monsters. Some people are going to be like, I want to look cool. I want my character to do cool things. Some people are going to want a struggle. Some people are going to want the opportunity to just be clever. Some people are going to want the opportunity to find loopholes in the rules. Like, what can you do with these spells that is outside the box and makes your DM go, huh, I never thought of that way. All of these things are valid. There are some people, like myself, who we want a narrative story. We want to look cool, but the dice don't let us look cool. So we have to role play in a way that makes us look cool, that makes us feel cool. And when you have players like that, you have to be very, very careful about running things in a way that doesn't let your players affect the world. Because when you don't let your players affect the story, they are exploring your world. It is not a collaborative story. It is them exploring the story that you've written. The job of the dungeon master, the job of the storyteller, is not to make the story. It's a very common misconception. Yes, you make an outline of the story. You grab a module. You can take somebody else's supplement and use that to help you build the world. But the actions and how they play out is for your players to decide. Okay, your job there as the dungeon master is to facilitate the fun of everyone at the table, including yourself. If you're not having fun, you shouldn't be doing it. In order to facilitate that, I highly recommend playing, figuring out what it is about story building that you like. Do you like making a rich world? Do you like world building and coming up with all of the religions and the locations and the NPCs and all of the different cultures that are experienced through going through the world and uncovering this story? Do you like reading from a book? So going back with easy mode, you're going to get your book that has modules in it, and you're going to read it before, start to finish, before the session. Okay? And for people who, like me, have really poor reading comprehension, just a skim is fine. You just need to know the gist of where you're going and where you might miss otherwise, like the little secret doors. You need to be prepared for the things that your players are going to ask. You also need to be prepared for your players to completely skip whole sections of the module and thereby not get very important information that they should have gotten, like say at the very beginning of the module that tells them something integral to their success. We're going to talk about that next week, how to modify a module and how to fix your plan, because no plan survives first meeting with the players. But for today, you have your module book, you have your D&D Beyond, go and build your little encounters based on your module, then you're ready. You're ready for game night. You've got everybody, you've got your snacks, you've got your drinks, everybody's sitting at the table, you've got all of your maps either printed out or drawn out on a little mappy thing. If you're even halfway good at Photoshop or something, you can take the maps that come in the book. When you have digital access to those, you can access the files and you can blow them up big enough that you can take the maps and make the little squares in there 1 inch square, and then you can print that out if you want. It's much easier to just draw it on a remarkable map. So at least the day before your session, read your module, prep your things, go into things knowing what's going to go on, go into things knowing what your players might miss so that you can swing them back around to it. Honestly, being a dungeon master, any way you look at it, is going to be about preparation and getting to know your players. You need to know what their limits are, what their joys are, what they like. Because if you have a player who always plays a healer, the reason that they play a healer is because they want to heal. So you have to make sure that they get opportunities to heal, but not so many opportunities that they are drained and then cannot provide their skills in the fight with the big bad of the session. You have to keep tabs on your players, on their spell slots, on just being able to look around the table and see if they're engaged or not. And if you see that a player is not engaged, you need to engage with them. You need to be like, hey, bard player, is there anything that your character wants to look for? And if you have one player who like steals the spotlight, you can just turn and look at the other players and ask them what they're doing. You're the focuser on the light, okay? You are the swivel that turns the spotlight to each player in turn. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to engage your players. Don't be afraid to call an audible. Don't be afraid to change the entire module if it's not working with your group. Every single D&D group is going to be different. You are going to have a collection of individuals who are going to have individual wants and individual needs, and your job as the person who is running the scenario is not to spit the facts. Your job as the person who is running the scenario is to make sure that all of the players are engaged and all of the players are having fun. I highly recommend when you're beginning to DM that you run a series of one-shots. They can be connected, they can be completely separate. But if you run a series of one-shots that are at different levels and you have people play different things, they're not always playing the same kind of character, you as a DM can sort of learn what character types are like, maybe not everything that they can do, but you can sort of get a kind of idea. And that experience will help you in the future when you're trying to build something for a specific group of characters. You know, maybe you should say, hey guys, let's do Oops All Bards. You play a College of Eloquence, you play a different, and like, taste the different flavors, right? Like you're going into Baskin Robbins and you're getting a tiny little spoon of all the 31 flavors. This will help you in building encounters and modules when you start building your own modules. When you go into DMing for the first time, I highly recommend going into it with experienced players, but not just any experienced players. Players who know how to tell a story themselves. Ideally, you want a group of seasoned DMs who know that they are not supposed to be doing things for you, who know that they are not supposed to tell you what the rule is unless you ask, because this allows you a safety net in case you are not able to come across the page in the book that's got the rule that you want to refer to it. You can be like, hey, can I have a little help? And they can give you feedback, right? And if you don't have that available to you, there's a lot of celebrity D&D to watch. Don't watch it for what the players do. Pay special attention to what the game masters do. Now take this with a grain of salt, because I don't watch other people play D&D. I do not find joy in that at all. I have a lot of friends who are really into Critical Role and the other D&D show things. I cannot bring myself to watch them. They are not my bag. I prefer to play or run. I like to be involved. But that said, watching the way someone else runs, especially someone who is experienced in the art of storytelling. And when I say the art of storytelling, I am not specifically saying the art of running an encounter. I mean telling of a story, the construction of the story, the hero's journey, the try-fail cycle. So even if it's somebody who's never run before, who just reads a lot and understands the structure of how to tell an engaging story, they're going to do better than somebody who's just like, ooh, dice, let's kill some monsters. I really like to approach it like it is a collaborative writing exercise. We may not put anything to paper, but figuring out what each character's hooks are, like where you can tug on their heartstrings and get really visceral reactions from them, finding out what each character cares about, finding out what motivates them, making them question those motivations. Oh, beautiful. You have to spend time in order to change fundamental beliefs. You're not going to do that in a one-shot, but what you can do in a one-shot is you can make people look cool. You can start to learn a player's way of playing. Some people play the same way every character. Some people change their playstyle with every character that they play. This is important to know with your group. Run one-shots. Run a series of one-shots, different levels. What I did was we took this Candlekeep Mysteries and we rolled a d20, and there is a chart for what level people are supposed to be at for what module, like they suggest here, right up in the front. We just took the number of whatever I randomly rolls on the die, and it's like, okay, that is the first session, this is the second session, this is the third. And we have like 6 weeks of modules that are planned out for me to run with my family group. When you have the encounter builder built and you go into your session, the combat is going to be the easiest thing in the world now, because you can just click the things and it automatically rolls for you. The thing that you have to note here, though, is that it is easy for a few bad rolls to completely screw your party. And you have to be prepared, one, either to let your players down with their characters dying or failing, or two, to be able to do something that will lessen that blow. When we were playing Book of Cylinders, there's a part in the module where they're fighting like 4 bad guys, pretty strong bad guys, around the like breeding pools of the frog people. And the combat was taking a really long time, and it was starting to wear on the resources that my characters had available to them. I could tell, I could look at the players and see that they were starting to become slightly frustrated. And so what I did was I just had the frog people who were around, I just assigned them an initiative number and had them throw magic stones, which I can't remember right now, but I could say, hey, how much damage does a magic stone do? I didn't even roll to hit for the frog people. I just started plinking away with like 4 damage to this guy and 3 damage to that guy. And that really bolstered their morale a lot. Even though they as players were still doing the bulk of the damage to the bad guys, just having a little bit of aid from the outside, just, it didn't detract from them looking cool, but it told them that they were making a difference. They had turned the tide. The Gripply were willing to work with them instead of being too scared of retaliation. They knew that they were going to win that fight, and they were in it again. You have to pay attention to your players. You have to pay attention to the way they play. Communication saves lives. I know not everybody is comfortable with communicating when they are frustrated, but everybody's got to tell. And if you have emotional trauma, you know how to read those. I'm not going to say go out and get emotionally traumatized, but in this situation, it does help to have a little bit of oversensitivity to other people's emotions so that you can see when your players are starting to get frustrated and do something to turn that around and make sure that the session stays above board and everybody has fun with it. There are some game masters who are like, the dice, what the dice say is what the dice say, and I'm not going to change anything about the story as it's been written, and if you die, oh well, oops, sorry. But I don't think that dying's any fun unless you have a character who can raise dead, especially if you do a TPK. That is soul crushing and not fun. So if you are a dungeon master who thinks that TPK is okay, talk to your players and make sure that they are too, because that's when you get flouncing and people never playing your game again. I don't think there's anything else I need to say about this, because this was never going to be a I'm going to hold your hand and teach you how to roll the dice. I'm not going to go through the website and teach you how to add a thing to your encounter in the encounter builder. It is just general vague advice of talk to your players, use the tools that are available, and use technology to cover up the things that you're not very strong at. Make a game that's tailored to the people that you're playing lists. That's the secret sauce right there. Preparation, communication, those are the two things that you need to be a DM. That's how you DM, right? It really doesn't matter what the story is about. As long as you and your players all have fun developing the story, that's it. That's all that matters. You could just go in a sandbox in Forgotten Realms and be like, oh, Red Wizards of Thay are the bad guys. Just use the encounter builder to build your encounters and like follow the natural path that a story should take. Hero's journey, 3-act structure, 7-act structure, whatever story building tools you want to use for that, go for it. Just remember to communicate and to be aware. That's all. Thanks so much for being here. I am drinking some French vanilla tea today. I am very grateful for every second of attention that you give me. We're gonna continue to talk about Dungeons and Dragons all this month, so stay tuned for next week. Until then, make sure you're hydrating, eat something nutritious, and do something that is good for your soul. Take care of my friend, and I promise I will do my very level best to take care of yours.